drop. So let's go.
Now we're live.
Now we're live. Super funky fresh. Hello, everyone. Welcome.
Hello. Yeah,
if we want to around, probably just say like our who we are and that fun stuff, and what we post on TikTok, like our content.
All right, I'll go first. At first it was kind of just shit posting in order to piss off some conservatives, and then it just evolved into something beautiful, I think. I have no idea. All of the content I post is political in nature, and that, is what it is.
Cool. All right. Who would like to go next?
I can go next. I'm Sriracha Marie on TikTok. I post a lot of stuff. I like history content, feminism, of course, a lot of like Black radicalism stuff. I also just like to post like funny stuff because I can't do all like one content because I feel like I would get super stressed if I was just like political TikTok or feminism TikTok. So a little bit of everything.
Cool.
I can go next, so it's like going around.
Yeah, we'll go around.
Hi, I'm Mariah. My @'s Hungry Rye. I post political content, feminist content, you know the jazz. Yeah, that's about it.
All right.
I'm Euphoria. My TikTok started out with just random stuff, and then I posted one TikTok about how women can end the world by not wanting to give birth, and then somehow turned into me being political on TikTok and just sort of went with it and started yelling at people randomly because it's a great way to relieve stress.
Right?
Yeah, I feel that. I post like Star Wars and like cosplay TikToks, and the only reason I post like political stuff, like I don't even really find it political because I mostly just post like about feminism and stuff. But the reason I started doing that was because I started getting a lot of hate comments because I cosplay like Rey, and also I sort of was open about how like women in the Star Wars community are like there's a lot of gatekeeping, and we can't really like enjoy it. And so all these dude bros would like flock to my comments and start like harassing me, and so I started responding to it, which like made more dude bros come, so I do post a lot of like feminist content now.
Cool. And then I am Gabby Katharina. I post mostly political content, but with a focus on LGBTQ activism and human rights issues. For the most part, it was more of just like a broad, leftist ideology standpoint, but now it's kind of morphed into more of, just like activism work and all that fun stuff. I think an important question is, what is your experience posting content that is specifically feminist in nature compared to when you post non-feminist content?
Well, the first time I don't know. I have memory. Let's establish that. But the first like feminist content that was like directed to an audience that was overtly like non-feminist was the Groyper project, like satirizing the Groyper's like perfect girlfriend or whatever. And of course that obviously gained the traction of Nazi Twitter, Nazi Reddit, Nazi everything. So that was my experience.
Oh yeah, I feel that one.
I feel like I don't have a lot of like negatives coming from my like feminist content. It's mostly from like my content about like the Black struggle and stuff like that. I also like post content about Marvel stuff, and like people were like commenting that it wasn't funny just because I was a woman, and I was like, I mean, okay. And then like my one like very viral TikTok was about me like taking like 20 Advils in one day because I was like having really bad cramps. And this one guy commented and was like, that wasn't even a lot. And I was like, is there a competition to like ruin like your liver and your stomach? Like, I mean, okay, like thanks. But I feel like it really like with my feminism stuff, it's mostly positivity, but with like my other intersections of my identity, it's mostly negative.
I've noticed that if I talk about misogyny or any sort of feminism, I always get the comments, well, men experience it too. They experience it too. And I was like, it's not nearly at the same rate though, but they always try to like bring it down by saying like, well, it's happening to us too.
Right.
It's like defeats the whole point of the video, and that's what like the comments get spammed with.
And it's even like people who kind of like take it as, well, you're not talking about men's issues, so therefore you don't care about men's issues. You're just a feminazi and all that lovely garbage.
Yeah.
It's like men don't want to go out and make videos on their own time to make awareness of their issues. They just want to tell women to make awareness of their issues when women's are like, we're making awareness of our own issues that we got on. Like, do we have to fix everything in this world?
Right. Like, are we responsible for everything?
And especially when a lot of that stuff
makes no sense.
Especially when a lot of that stuff is like because of patriarchy. Like you guys don't realize that.
Yeah, they blame the women.
Is what's oppressing you, not us.
Well, and especially because like the patriarchy like is what defines gender roles and like what enforces it, and people don't understand that like with gender roles, like that is what is telling men like, oh, you can't cry. Like being weak is like whenever you like are able to be like overtaken by a woman, like all of this stuff. Is they don't realize that it's their own system that is working against them.
Yep.
Yeah.
That word feminazi is funny though. The word feminazi is so hilarious. Like they're really comparing that females fighting for their rights to Nazi Hitler's trying to kill off everybody else that isn't Aryan. Like
right.
That's insane.
And that's not even like the case of what the feminist movement is.
So they usually compare that with third wave. There's like they're all female supremacists.
Oh yeah, for sure. You know, and I posted a couple videos about like male problems, you know, that feminism can fix because I felt a very, very small percentage of like male followers, and I was like, oh, well, I want to, like, I call out a bunch of toxic men, and I want to like, you know, sort of like recognize them, and be like, I see you too. And there's all these dudes who are like supportive, like most of it was definitely supportive and like feminist, but then there's these dudes that were like, hell yeah, fuck third wave feminism, like they're all men, like they hate men, they want to kill men, and I was like, no, that's not it. And there was a bunch of dudes that were like, yeah, see, this is why you shouldn't be a feminist. And I was like, I believe this because I'm a feminist, like not the other way around.
Yeah, I might be a feminazi then, because I believe that we women bring life into this world. So why, like, women have been treated so horribly for so long when we are literally the ones that keep human life going. Like, yeah, you men get us pregnant, but are you the one that's carrying the child in your stomach for 9 months, producing the actual child, making it from 2 small cells into the living creature that it is now at birth? Like, guys don't do any part to help with that. And it's like, you guys literally try to make it seem like, oh, you fought, you did all this stuff, you caused all these issues to what? Protect women from who? From you guys. Like, we really don't need protection from anything on this earth anymore. Like, we are not in the wild. We're not living in prehistoric generations where there's fucking no buildings, no electricity, nothing. It's like, we don't need protection anymore. Like, let us fucking go. Like, men literally see women as property, and it irritates me so much because we are all fucking human beings. Like, the only difference between humans are gender. Like, everything else is, we decided, we created race, we created colorism, we created all these things to give it name to make us different, but in reality, we're all human, and the only difference is one is a male, one is a female, and we all deserve respect this equally. But it's like, what is all these old-fashioned, oh, women belong in the kitchen and men are providers? Like, this is the 21st century. You gave us the right to vote. Like, what the fuck? And 70 years with the right to vote, we got the right to work and do all this shit, and you men realize you need women more than men need, like, we literally, they need us more than we need them. Like, a girl can go out, get pregnant, and raise that kid on her own, have the baby, and fully take care of that. Can men do that? No. They can never do that, regardless if they want to or not. They have to tie themselves down to a woman for 9 months, and then it's her choice if he could be in the kid's life now. Like, I'm not saying it's a perfect system. They made that system because us women take care of kids. So it's like,
you know, I actually have something really interesting to say about that. So in one of my classes this semester, I read The Second Shift by Arlie Hochschild, which is, she was like a sociologist in the 80s. And in like the 70s and 80s, women were beginning to like enter the workforce. But even though they started to like have full-time jobs, they still had to pick up all of the work at home, which is the second shift. And again, like amplify that problem for single mothers, women of color. Like it is, like it's so preposterous to me that people think that women, you know, have it good and have it made when literally, what, 40 years ago, we just like got into the workforce. Like, what are you talking about? Like, what? Can you like, I don't understand.
Well, and I think it's so weird because they like to say that, you know, we don't need feminism in 2020. But I think that it's further from the truth, like that whole ideology, just because with this whole, you know, repeal the 19th with all these like super alt-right, far right leaning people who are pushing for, you know, repeal the 19th, their whole ideology is inherently harmful and distasteful to women. Like, at least with my experience, I had like a really bad run-in with Reuters to the point where they made an alt-right news article about me. And in the article, it was she needs to get back in the kitchen, marry a white man, and have as many white babies as possible to maintain the white race. And I was like, what is this? Like, what is so backwards about your thinking?
Yep, same thing happened to me. It's really, really interesting, the intersections of race and gender for that one.
It's just crazy. Like, and that these people think that way, and then they're also the same people who don't think we need feminism and don't think that, you know, people are inherently equal, despite the fact that, you know, we're all, as Euphoria said, we are all the human race. There's no clear definer except, you know, our biological sex. And even on that, like, we're all equal in that way because
Yeah,
that's
we all
what
got
that
blood.
brings to.
We're all breakable. Y'all can fucking die. Like, men really think they're so invincible, but as soon as you point a gun to them, they'll bow down.
Okay, let's. Sorry, I'm like having a hard time like with the audio. Can everybody mute while we're not talking? Sorry, I like it. It's so hard for me to hear. We spent a while on this. Is there a difference for everyone, like between their feminist content and their non-feminist content, or is there like really no difference? I know that you said that you got the most hate when you posted race content, like content about race. Can anybody expand on that?
Well, I mean, for me personally, when I post about race content, it doesn't really get as much backlash as I see when POC are posting about race issues. Like, if I say something, they just kind of are like, oh, yeah, like, she's just an annoying woman, but like, we'll ignore it. Whereas if I go to like a Black creator's account and I look on their comment section, it's just nonstop, like, racism and just like tearing these women or even these men down just for voicing their concern and voicing like a very real and pressing issue in these communities. It's that people don't want to accept that these issues are actually happening because they think that, you know, everything is just like what their experience is. And I think it's important to just to talk about how just because you don't experience it doesn't mean it's not happening and doesn't mean it's affecting other people.
And I like from my
a lot
the
of
one
people don't
TikTok.
realize every time I post something about like race or something, I always get all these comments saying, "What about reverse racism? What like white people face racism too?" But it's like that wasn't what my video was about. I nowhere in my video did I say what actually maybe in some of my videos, but reverse racism is not real. That's another topic. But it's like you can't be racist to somebody, like you have to feel like your race is superior. Fighting for equal rights is not saying that I'm superior. It means that I want to be seen as equal as a human being. And it's like they can't get that through their head because once you do show equal rights and like people do once if in this generation if it does ever happen, like it's not looking like it at right now, but once people do see that realize once equal rights looks like and they lose all the privilege that they had, then they're gonna realize, oh wow, there really was something messed up here, like, but they don't want to lose all their privilege because they are aware of it, but they just don't want to make us know that they're aware of it. They just want to play that, oh, I didn't know card as long as they can.
Yeah.
And with the one video that was like kind of popular, I was talking about mass incarceration and how it's like the same as slavery. Like it's literally the same thing. 13th Amendment. The documentary is also really good if anyone wants to check it out. But there's a lot of like very racist content, like not content, comments coming from me, and like saying that I don't care about like Black people being killed in inner cities and stuff like that. And I was like, well, that's like a different issue. But then it literally got to the point where like white people were like coming into like my different posts, like not even related about race, and like just saying very racist, like harassment at that point. And it even came to the point where a lot of like white feminists for some reason were like saying that like Black women should be in the feminist movement and should have been in the feminist movement. And like as a history and like women and gender studies, like I study all of that. And like Black women carried the feminist movement for a very long time and still do. And so like the fact that I have to be like, are you guys like, do you guys that pay attention to history? Because Black women seriously carry feminism and like write a lot of feminist theory. And so the fact that I have people in my comments being like, Black women should have been in the feminist movement and not in the Black liberation movement. Like, why do we have to decide what identity we have to fight with? Like, okay.
Right. And like, I think it's important to point out that like when women were getting or trying to get the right to vote, they weren't working for, POC's right to vote. They were going for white women's right to vote, because historically we've always favored white people for some reason. Well, and that's also because of, the institution of race in the United States and how we favor like one race over the other, despite there being no actual difference, just ingrained in our society, which I think is extremely problematic. I mean, people have been talking to me about looking into womanism instead of feminism, because womanism is based on, POC and based on, friendliness to LGBT, especially because, a lot of these movements did start, with African-American POC and LGBT people. I mean, especially with gay rights, like that started off of the backs of African-American trans women. That all started, and no one likes to talk about that. It's always glorifying, the white gay men who represent like the stereotype, which like, yeah, that's awesome that like they're able to go out and share their truth. But like, if we're not able to share everyone's truth, then what is the purpose?
Yeah. Especially like a lot of people love to leave out the fact that the suffrage movement was like pushed by rhetoric from white women saying that like, oh, we should be able to get the right to vote before Black men so that we can outvote them because we're going to vote with our white husbands. Like a lot of people just love to forget about that.
Yeah, and that actually like really goes in well with our next question. Like, would you describe yourself as a feminist? Like, for me, yes, but by labeling myself that, I really need to come to terms with the history of that word for white women specifically, because it's not great. It is not great.
Thank you for acknowledging that.
It's bad. Like, but my favorite fun fact to like tell people who say that like, feminism, it's usually men who say this, that feminism is inherently excludes men. My favorite fun fact to say is that Black women were talking about men's rights since the get-go, like before we got the right to vote, white women, that is. But, no one listens.
I also
it's really
like
sad how Black women always stand up for everybody. Like, I'm the type of person, like, if I see somebody, like, even if I don't know you, like, in public, I will stand up for somebody that's being bullied. Like, I don't like that shit. Like, just because you feel like you're stronger or you feel like you're better than somebody, why would you ever bring somebody down? It's like, I don't know if it's just the way I was raised or just being Black or something, but it's like, that irritates me so much how others bring other people down. Like, we are all having a tough time on this earth. Nobody's experience is less than anybody else's just because you didn't go through the same stuff. And it's just like, if we all just develop that inherent, just treat everybody kindly, so many problems in this world would just disappear if we just treat the golden fucking rule that you're taught in elementary school. And it's like, where did this rule go? Like, why do adults not remember it?
I don't know. Probably because they have financial incentive, they have, clout incentive to just retain their biased perspectives. Like, I think about a lot of the people on TikTok right now, especially, and even YouTubers, like Ben Shapiro, great example. Some people just have incentives to perpetuate these, harmful structures. That's it, I guess.
That's
well, it's become a trend for people to like try and be the most oppressed. Like, everyone's like, well, I'm oppressed too. Just because you face some sort of oppression in your life doesn't mean that other people can't be oppressed. It's like with men, they're like, well, I'm facing oppression right now, so oppression with women doesn't exist, or reverse racism exists, so therefore Black people can't be oppressed. You don't know if other people are oppressed. You can hear from other people and hear their stories and understand, like, oh yes, these institutes we have in our society are inherently oppressive to people, but you need to actually acknowledge that they're there. And people do not like to acknowledge that they're there. They like to say that, you know, well, there are more of these people in like everyone like always likes to say that there are more white people in prison, which isn't even true. I mean, also white people make up a majority of the population. Like people just like to willfully ignore every other outstanding factor just so they can fit their narrative.
They just focus on that one little fact that may help their case just a little, and they just run with that and just like ignore everything else.
And then I like the womanist versus like feminist is very interesting because I learned this in my women and gender studies class. And that's why I feel like I have to mention the fact of that I'm an intersectional feminist and not just a feminist, because I feel like just the word feminist is just white women or just women in general. And I have to like purposefully say I am intersectional because historically the word has always just been exclusive.
I mean, even now it's still exclusive with the fucking TERFs. Like, you know, it's unbelievable how even in a movement that advocates for the rights for all genders, there is still, you know, that intersection of race that needs to be accounted for, the intersection of the LGBTQ community that needs to be accounted for, you know, impoverished women. There's a lot to consider before calling yourself a feminist. And I think that intersectional denotation like really helps because it clarifies your stance. Okay, we can get into the second, there's been a couple questions at this point. What are the negatives and positives about being a feminist on TikTok?
I feel like this is an issue that comes into play, you know, whenever someone voices their opinion or is trying to have an educational discussion with anyone, especially men. I've noticed in numerous debate formats, women are always talked over. I've watched like 3 different debates where men have just screamed over women and not even let them have an actual point. I mean,
Nick videos.
Oh yeah, Nick videos, and then this other debate with this girl Sophie, and I'm like, come on, like just because you want to make your point doesn't mean that you should just yell over. Like it's rude. Like it's rude, and you're not allowing these people to give a voice for their opinion. You're just totally shutting them down before they can even say anything.
How emotional of them.
Yeah. Sorry if I'm talking over anyone. My audio is being really weird, so I can't hear certain people. But I don't remember what study it was or like the specifics at the moment. But there's a study done where I think it was in like meetings or something with men and women. And when men said that women were over talking them, they were only talking like 30% of the time, you know. Or if it was like equal, the men would be like, women are talking way too much because they're so used to just interrupting women talking over them that they're not used to women like talking at an even like amount.
Well,
not related to this. Anybody else see the talking ratios of Disney movies from the female cast to like the male cast?
No. What?
I seen a TikTok about this. All like it was Jasmine, like Little Mermaid and Snow White, and all these movies where it's like the male to female ratio of like the talking, it was literally less than 20%. Like in Mulan, I think it was like 24% like of her speaking. It's Mulan's movie. Like who else was speaking during the movie?
You know, that actually also reminds me of Sleeping Beauty, how she was like asleep for literally like 75% of the movie and only had like 5 minutes of like actual screen time. I don't know the actual numbers because I haven't watched that movie in a minute, but yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense.
And it's like most movies.
Yeah, in Star Wars, I've had a bunch of arguments with like dude bros about if Star Wars, like they say, oh, Star Wars is too diverse because there's like a Black main character, a female main character, and like a Hispanic main or a Latino main character. And I'm like, no, first of all. And then they'll be like, well, Star Wars is always diverse. And I'm like, yeah, for the 70s, but they had one Black character and one like female character. That is not diverse right now. Like we've progressed, and they're just like, I'm like, why do you feel threatened by women and just like people of color in a movie? Like they're not doing anything to you.
It's Speaking about that threatened thing, I genuinely feel like men are threatened by women. Men do not like women that are confident and secure in themselves. They genuinely feel like being insecure is a personality trait they like. Like girls that are manipulative and like younger and stuff. Like guys, I intimidate guys and I know that. Like you will not speak to me and try to run game on me because I will run game so quick on you that you would fucking spin around. And it's like guys literally seek that out in girls. That whole innocent, the youth, like schoolgirl, like they're literally predators that are attracted to that, like innocence, and it's disgusting.
Yeah, we talked a lot about this in like I also had a women and gender studies course this last semester, and this was talked about a lot, like the way that women are just infantilized like throughout all of media. Like we're made to seem both younger, but then younger girls are like made to seem older at the same time. And it does like warrant a conversation like what because as women, we saw Cinderella talking like 3 lines in the movie, or that's obviously an exaggeration, but you know what I mean? Like we've been socialized to like be silent and shut up. And it's worth a conversation of like what men are being, taught about women and how they should treat women as well.
Absolutely. I mean,
Really
I went.
good,
I did a
Sorry,
study
amazing.
abroad last summer in London, and I learned a lot about how European culture is, while very similar to American culture, looks at women through a different lens. Women are more encouraged to like embrace, aging and like really just try and be exactly who they are. They don't really like women to try and like be this super duper skinny idea of a model. They don't want women to like be constantly, getting plastic surgery. And like, of course, if a woman wants to do that, that's her prerogative. But I feel like in our society, it is so pressed on women to be this societal standard of beautiful, or the societal standard of, being perfect. I mean, especially because my focus was theater, especially in the theater arts, they prioritize older women and older women having sexuality and like being these figures that, can be real, actual human beings. Because when we look at the parallels in American society and American theater, they're all made to be younger. They're all the romantic interests are young. They're all naive. It's just kind of like, what is the purpose of diminishing the value of older women just because they're older?
It's social media.
There's a good video essay. Oh, sorry.
No, you can go ahead.
Sorry.
No, you can go ahead and talk.
I can't tell when people are talking because my audio is really bad right now. But there's this really good video essay on YouTube called Born Hot Yesterday, and it talks about this like trope in movies where there'll be like a clone or like a robot lady or whatever, who's born today, but then she's already sexualized and she has the mind of a child, but she has the body of a woman, So I think that is really like a good a good essay about media and the portrayal of women.
I think the issue that we have with media in America is the entertainment for the world. Everybody knows that TV and like movies and all this stuff, like America was the first country to basically make it popular and make it a lifestyle. And America focuses so hard on like the people that are on TV, models and actors and stuff. You will never see them with a blemish, with anything other than perfect skin and like always on TV, giving kids and everybody grew up with unrealistic expectations on how people look. Like in Korea, everybody has watched K-pop. Like I don't care what anybody said. You have seen what K-pop looks like. The majority of Korea does not look like they're K-pop singers. Every country literally puts their prettiest and most best looking people as their image to other people could be jealous of them for that simple fact. And it's like it literally teaches kids at a young age, okay, if you don't look like this, you're not going to be pretty. Like people grow up with these beliefs and these ideas. As kids, you're learning, okay, this is what society finds pretty, what not find pretty. And you're learning at a young age, and you're also forced to go to school. The education system is so horrible, and it puts kids together. Kids are cruel. And it's like you're literally going to 12 years of schooling, being judged on how you look, your appearance, your grades, and everything. And people literally graduate high school so fucked up in the head. They don't know who they are. They don't know what they want to do with their life. And they're just told to make all these decisions. And it's like everybody has gone through this. Like if you're over the age of 18, if you've gone through school and everything, it's like you've experienced what it's like to be school. Like even if you're popular, if you're a nerd or anything, everybody has always been judged and everybody's always concerned about what other people are thinking about them and how they look. And it's just that image of always being concerned literally makes us all ugly on the inside. We're always trying to change ourselves and trying to look like something we're not. And this world is just so ugly. I don't even know what point I was trying to make with this.
No, that was like really, really good. Wait, do you want to say something, Mariah? You haven't talked for a minute. We miss you.
No, I was just thinking about like the toddlers and tiaras and like the pageants that you see growing up. It's like you see these women that are being paraded on these screens and they have to like perform a talent, and like even in a bodybuilding like aspect, they have to do a dance compared to like male bodybuilders where they have to flex and pose. The women have to like choreograph a whole set, which doesn't make any sense because like they built their body up, but yet they still have to perform and like prance around even in that kind of athletic setting.
You know, in about toddlers and tiaras, I'm thinking of Honey Boo Boo right now. Like the way that they portray white trash women specifically is terrible. And back to something that you said, Euphoria, about the K-pop industry, it reminded me of how I think the most profitable, I'm not sure about the numbers on this, but one of the most profitable industries in the Philippines is the skin bleaching industry. So, yeah, I think that while we're on the subject of beauty standards.
Yeah, it's not just Philippines, it's the Middle East and most of Asia.
Yeah.
Like they all, in Africa, Northern Africa too, like they all think having the lighter skin makes you attractive for some reason. And I'm not saying it's not, but that whole mindset of like you have to change yourself to be attractive, like that is just really sickening to me, because it's like I've gone through when I was younger and stuff, like I always thought like, oh, I wanted to be lighter and stuff. And it's like as I got older, I'm just thinking, wow, why would I want to be lighter to match everybody else? And it's like when I was like 19 or 20 years old, like I would literally sit outside all the time just so I can get darker. And it's like I actually started loving my skin tone. It's like everybody would like look at me all weird, like, why are you outside for so long? I'm just like, I'm trying to get darker. Like the fuck? And it's like they would look at me weird, like, why would somebody want to be darker than they are? And it's like it makes no, why are you like, skin color is literally how much melanin you have in your body. Why should that matter or affect anything about who you are as a person? Like,
well, and also like when white women go and tan, they're like praised for that. That's like beautiful for them. But if you look at psychological studies, like because when I was in college, I did a lot of psychology classes, and one of the most impactful studies that I looked into was the baby doll experiment with children, and how when Black children were looking at baby dolls, they asked, which baby doll do you think is the prettier baby doll? And most of the time, the child would choose the white baby doll every time, because that's what society has conditioned us to believe is beautiful, because there's not that much representation for, you know, non-white people or non-straight people in the media. There really isn't. And it's totally covered up. And then when people are exposed to these ideas, there's kind of a culture shock with it. Like, how do I interact with these people that I've never come in contact with? I mean, I've grown up in a very very large, diverse area. So I've always been used to this, but going to school in an area where it was so like Anglo-Saxon, like so white, no one like understood the implications of the words they were saying or like the speech they were saying, because it was inherently racist, but they're conditioned to believe that that's normal, that that's tolerable and that's okay.
And I post a lot
of beauty standards. It's really funny to me because I remember in history class at one time period, being extremely pale and overweight was a sign of having wealth. Like everybody wanted to be overweight and pale because it means that you never went outside and seen sunlight because you had money and people working for you and you ate well. So the fact that things are being pale and being overweight are seen as ugly now, and a couple hundred years ago when it was the standard of beauty, like this beauty standards change so much and people don't realize that standards of beauty will always change. There's always going to be somebody that brings something new to the table, and everybody's going to be like, okay, wow, now we have another expectation for women. Like women have had so many over the years. It's just more and more requirements that are added on. You have to have the Kim K body. You have to have your hair this long. You have to do all this, this, and this. And it's like people aren't realizing the more beauty standards you add, the more insecure the whole population is going to be, because you're literally specifying it to look like one specific person. When there is 7 billion different people on the earth that comes in all different shapes and sizes, and everybody is beautiful in their own way. And we just taught people to embrace who you are and love who you are instead of trying to look like somebody else. our society would have such a change in everything. Like, people's self-worth and their value would change instantly, because people are valuing themselves to how they look and how much money they have and things that are materialistic and change, when you should be valuing yourself on how good of a person you are and how you do for others, because those things, nobody can ever take that away from you. Your intelligence, how kind you are, like what good deeds that you have done for others, nobody can take that away from you. But materialistic things, those are all going to disappear, and people don't realize this life, like, it may seem long, but we're only on here for so short of a time. If you're making other people's life miserable on here, you're going to be miserable when you die.
And I also make a lot of content that's like about colorism specifically. I think like you were saying, the beauty standards do change over time, but I think there is like a standard of being anti-Black with beauty standards. Like, even though like today, like white women being tanner and having like fuller bodies, so that could be, it's like anti-Black in the fact of that if Black women do it, it's not acceptable still. But if a white woman does it, then it's okay. So it's still like rooted in anti-Blackness. And like with my colorism, like videos and stuff, I get a lot of backlash, especially from light-skinned people like myself, because for some reason they think that just because they are light-skinned that they have like these privileges that they just simply like do not accept for some reason. And that's very sad to see, because colorism is like rooted in like trying to separate the Black community and like all people of color communities. I can only speak for like Black people because I'm Black, but yeah.
Well, this is good. This is fun. Okay, let's go on to the next one. Negatives and positives of being a feminist on TikTok. I'm not even really sure if we answered that, but that's totally fine by me. What are the negatives and positives of being a woman on TikTok? So not necessarily feminist, but just existing as a woman.
Oh God. I mean,
I can't even think of any positives right now.
There's so many people who will look at your videos, and it does not matter how many facts you put in there, they will still think that you're ignorant and not smart. Like, I could post source upon source of me debunking a white conservative male's video, but every single time they'll be told that I'm not smart enough, I'm not using facts, I'm not doing this, even though I am, because there's just a blatant favoritism towards men, especially in the media. It's always been there. Whenever women are even trying to make a point, it's always, oh, well, she's a woman, she doesn't know what she's doing, she's in too much over her head, which I think is totally ridiculous.
Yeah, I want to hear from everyone on this, because this makes me want to ask a question. So whenever I post, I will always get a comment on my appearance. Does anybody else like get this? Like, no matter what they say, no matter what you say, no matter what you're doing, you always get a comment on your appearance.
I get so many comments about my appearance. It is ridiculous. I either get misgendered, or people are like, you need to eat something, you're too skinny, you look like a skinny Holocaust man. And I'm like, that's not okay. And then people will be like, well, you're putting yourself on the internet, so it's okay for people to comment about your body. I'm like, no, that's not how it works. Like, if you wouldn't comment about my body in the streets, don't do it online.
People really feel bold on the computer, where it's like, just because you're in the safety of your home to say something, everybody really feels confident they can say whatever they want. But most of the people that say stuff online would never say something like that in person. Like, but I'm the type of person, I cannot wait until I can start posting TikToks again and like actually go out in public. I'm gonna start making TikToks harassing men. Like,
are you banned from posting for a while? Oh.
Yeah, it was for 7 days. I think this is like day 4 or 5.
Why? What'd you do?
It's utter bullshit. Like, they literally just say you violated too many guidelines and context, but half of them I appealed and I won the appeal. So that's some bullshit right there. But it's like, they literally just don't like when somebody speaks about issues that exist, like feminist issues or people of color issues. They genuinely like took down so many of my videos for no reason at all. And it's like, they got to a point where it's like, they're not even taking it down for content violation, because I always appeal and I win the appeals. They just started taking the sound off and just mute it. Like, oh, you're something violated something. You can't appeal when they just mute it. It's really irritating.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I muted myself halfway through that sentence. But yeah, so like, what are some other comments on your appearance that you all receive?
I get all of them. I'm always like called out for the makeup I wear. They always ask me if I need more makeup. People always tell me that I'm overweight, which is really like like I hate to say it, but it's like super triggering. Because like that's something that like I've actually like dealt with. And like people don't understand that like you're saying things to people and you don't know what people are going through in their personal life that you can push them to do something. Like I watched so many videos, especially this week, of people getting misgendered and just having an extremely visceral reaction to it. And then you read the comments and people are just still doing it, first of all. And then they like make it into a joke. I'm like, come on, like, how is that funny? Like, how is it entertaining to tear someone down to the point where they are literally having a mental breakdown? Like, some people are just so sick. And then the face reveal things are just ridiculous. And like, I have no problem not wearing makeup.
Or the wrist reveals or whatever. I'm like,
oh
and then
yeah.
I posted a video like a few days ago where I was like, can people stop fucking asking my gender, my pronouns are like literally in my bio, just shut up about it. Stop asking if I'm cis or trans. I'm not going to ask that, or I'm not going to answer that question, because you shouldn't be answering that question or asking that question to anyone. It's not your business. So I'm not going to like entertain this. And then people in the comments were like, calm down, dude, calm down, man. And I'm like, I want to kill you. I'm going to throttle you. Like,
yeah, that's been my account today because, you know, the TikTok Republicans decided to make a joke of coming onto my account and calling me a man. I don't know how that's funny, but apparently it's hysterical. I
it's
still like to say, because Nick Videos said it was funny. So, of course, since Nick Videos did it, everyone else is going to do it because we can't cancel him. Can't hold him accountable for his actions. He can say the N-word, but no one else can.
Yeah.
I've noticed that if I bring up anything about like economic policy or anything like beyond social issues, like the comment section compared to like my male counterparties like of the same caliber is so much different. You're just getting talked down to constantly. Luckily, I don't get too much on my like appearance necessarily, but it's always like I'll have like 6 sources in there, like you said, but they just attack like either your persons or like you not knowing enough about economics, even though it's like a surface level topic. It could just be just a joke.
Yeah.
And they're like, no, you're wrong. You don't know what you're talking about. Or you bring up like the idea of like income disparity of like in genders or like a wage gap to better quantify it. And they're like, it doesn't exist. I'm like, well, where?
Economics is just, it's too much for women to handle. That's the man's field. It can't be us, you know? It's just, sorry. That's just how it is.
We just need the wallets.
Honestly. Well, then
and then with my content, I feel like people don't really, it's mostly white people for some reason. I get a few like black people that are like, you're not black, your skin, you're pretty light skinned. I don't know how you're black. And I'm like, oh, well, because my parents are black. Like black people come in all shades. Like, and then it's always like their way to discredit like what I'm saying about black issues. Like, even if I was a white person talking about racism, like, as you should, like, just because I'm light skinned doesn't make my argument any less credible.
Well, it's always funny because half the time the people who are trying to define like people's ethnicity are white. They're always white people, and they're like, "Well, you're not black," and you're like, "But."
Yeah.
It's like it's just so ridiculous. It's just.
Or they'll be like, oh, well, I can't even remember what the username of the person that got canceled recently for saying the N-word, but they're like, oh, well, we forgive her because she apologized. I'm like, you're white. Like, that's not,
literally,
apology's not for you.
It's not right. It's not your place to accept that. And that's like what I've learned, because I used to be very like, I was like, oh my God, you like, no one can say it. But then again, like I'm sitting here and I'm like, I'm white. I've never felt the impact or the negative backlash of the use of that word. So therefore, it's not my place to tell people whether or not they need to accept an apology. It's not even my place to get upset about it, because it's not me that's personally being affected. It's another group, and I can empathize with that. I can feel bad for them for that, but I can't tell people like, you must be mad, you must do this. Like, that's not my place. And that's kind of my issue with everything that's going on right now, you know, with all these people trying to cancel one person, and they're all white. They're always white.
Yeah, like I definitely agree with
That
that.
cancel culture is retarded.
Feel very uncomfortable.
Like, why can't we just live in a day and age where being blocked is okay? Like, I don't understand why people have such a negative connotation. Like, oh, they got to you so much that they blocked them. Like, no, you literally just took away their privilege to see you. Like,
I think
just
like,
simply block somebody and move on. Like, why do you have to feel the need to cancel somebody completely? That's literally just trying to target somebody, and that's like literally bullying as a whole. Like, you're getting a bunch of people to target one person just to cancel them.
Well, something that I've like observed with cancel culture is that it comes in waves. If you have a predominantly white audience, they'll feign rage for like a day or maybe 2 or maybe 3, and then a week will pass and then all will be well. You know, it's like there's definitely like a rhythm to it. If your audience is mostly white and then you get caught saying some racist shit, odds are it's not going to affect you that much. At least that's
look
what
at Shane
happened.
Dawson.
Yeah.
He's done like fucking blackface before, and people are like, "Oh, well, that was in the past." And then like he said the N-word like recently or something. You know, like he's done problematic stuff recently. Like I don't know. I feel like you do something. Well, it's also not my place to say, but like, you know, there's a difference between doing something problematic like way far in the past and then consistently doing it even when people tell you you're wrong. Like, you know it's wrong and you're still doing it was like that's not it. Like Nick, where he'll like post an apology and then take it down. I'm like, you're not actually apologizing. You're not actually like learning anything or taking it to heart. You're just doing it so people will stop yelling at you, basically, which isn't a real apology.
Yep.
Did you see the backlash after Denim Day on a lot of people's posts that they were getting from it?
That was Denim Day.
No, I didn't.
It was the day where everyone like came out about like their sexual assaults or stuff, but people be like, "Well, prove it."
Oh yeah.
Whether anyone else had seen that.
I did not see that, and I'm quite thankful that I didn't because I would have probably lost my mind.
There was a lot of videos, and I was
really triggering.
Yeah, it was bad.
Wow, they were just saying like, how
they would duet it and be like, "Well, prove
it." Interesting.
And like a lot of them, not all, were like women. So
yeah. And a lot of people, I also saw duetted it and was like just sitting there, you know how like guys think that just sitting there.
Videos, it's just so triggering. I'm like, you don't even know that. Like, it's statistically so unlikely that you get like falsely accused with rape. And the other thing is, some people aren't even like pressing legal charges; they're just speaking out about it and do still get pressed about it. And they're like, well, this could ruin his life. It's a false accusation. And like, you can look at like celebrities with rape accusations, and it has like our fucking president has rape accusations. That hasn't affected him at all in a like meaningful way, you know. So just shut up. Literally, just shut up. It's that simple.
And with a lot of the like the duets that I saw with Denim Day, like you know how men like they think
also
that
we could just
staring at
simply
the
stop
camera.
reproducing with guys and just have all women future generations. Like that would easily end human.
I'm back. What were you saying, Kariah?
With the Denim Day duets, you know, I don't know why men think it's just funny to like stare into the camera and like not do anything and then have like a super misogynistic joke or something. But with a lot of the Denim Day posts, they'd be like, I don't care. Like, if you don't care, then just scroll. Like, we did not ask for your opinion.
Or like, what was the sound where they would stare out into the field or whatever? It would be like a sexist thing. It was like the Star Wars noise, right?
It was binary sunset. Yeah, it was the binary sunset theme from Star Wars, which don't even get me started on them using that song. Like, I got real triggered. I was like, you're not going to use this hopeful Star Wars beautiful theme to promote your stupid sexist ideas. Like, that's not it. And they'd be like, why do boys play video games and women play boys? I'm like, this is deep for y'all. Like, this is, you took that off like a 13-year-old Twitter and you're like, this is some like hot take. And women will be like, hey, here's all these statistics. And they'll be like, no, that's not correct. That's not correct. Just shut up.
Well, and even so, like, I've been seeing so many videos lately of people making a joke out of sexual assault and sexual harassment. And like, for me personally, that's like a very, no, you like don't joke about that. Because it doesn't just affect women. Like, it's not only triggering for women, but it's triggering for men as well. And whenever you get upset about it, they're like, oh, well, you can't take a joke. But I don't think people understand the actual concept of a joke, because
jokes are supposed to be funny.
A joke doesn't mean it's okay.
Well, and the punchline of the joke isn't supposed to be a marginalized group of people, and it's not supposed to be someone's trauma.
You know what's even more interesting is like, it's not even just like like women's sexual assault and their experiences with sexual assault that they joke about. Like, think of how many like oops, drop the soap prison jokes, you know, there are.
Yeah.
Like, they joke about it when it happens to them. When it happens to them, they'll say things like, why didn't you like it? You know what I mean? So obviously when a woman tries to talk about her experiences, why the fuck would they take it seriously?
Right.
And then that's why I also
I
hate
don't know if you
the
guys
term
have seen that one
butthurt.
on TikTok where, oh, it's so disgusting. The guy's like, is it rape if she moans? I'm like, yes, it
Yeah.
is.
Yes.
And dudes are
That
like,
was
take
terrible.
a joke. And I don't think the argument should be what qualifies as a joke, because that's not what the conversation is. It's, you know, you can't just use, oh, it's a joke to justify your shitty behavior. Like, if it's offensive, it's offensive regardless of if it's a joke, you know?
And
I
then
just want to
I
mention something on this. I have a lot of dark humor where it's just like I make jokes about really touchy situations where it's like it's not so my thing for dark humor is like I like dark humor. I think it's hilarious. Things that are uncomfortable and awkward and just like you shouldn't probably make a joke about this. Like it makes me laugh so hard. I'm a horrible person for it. But my limit for it is dark humor is based off of your personal experience. If you're the butt of the joke and you're okay with that and you can make a joke at your expense, bro, that's hilarious. You can do that all you want. But as soon as you try to make a joke with dark humor on somebody else's expense, that's where I draw the line where it's just like, like, no, you can't do that. Like, especially like when it comes to children, like I seen this one TikTok that really got me angry about like saying, oh, 12-year-olds be having sex and stuff. And when I was 12 years old, I was over here doing what? Like that really got to me personally because a 12-year-old is a child. Like, regardless if you want to think they're a child or not, they are not developed in their head. And if somebody's having sex with a 12-year-old, it's most likely somebody that's older and taking advantage of their innocence. And that's not funny to me at all. Like, how can you literally make a like in 6th grade, like I remember when I was in 6th grade, like I thought I was I literally felt like I was grown for so long, and that's probably because of my childhood trauma.
Yeah.
But at 6th grade, I remember that very vividly. Like I remember thinking like an adult, but still knowing that okay, I am a child still. Like I don't have boobs or anything. Like I haven't started my menstrual or anything, and it's like people don't realize that just because a girl looks developed and she started early, like girls who get their periods as early as 9 years old, that doesn't mean their body is ready for it. And it's like it's disgusting how men are literally attracted to little girls' body and like that whole school uniform. I don't understand why school uniforms like that have not been abolished yet. Like that is, oh my gosh, like if I ever run for anything in politics, that is the first thing that I'm gonna make illegal. School uniform should not be a mini skirt for young girls. Like that is disgusting. And the administrative and everybody who went to making it and still allowing this to go on is fucking disgusting. Like why? Oh.
Well, and it's also because our system.
Like, sorry.
Hold up, guys. I'm going to be right back. Promise.
I also wanted to
There's
bring up like the point that we were talking.
Like women mature faster than men, which is like, you know, sort of true biologically.
No, we're
also
forced
like,
to.
Studies,
no, we're forced to.
Yeah. No, women's brains and men's brains develop at the same time. It's just that women are like.
They're held to
societal
higher
standards.
standards.
As a woman. Yeah, they're held to higher standards, so we act more mature. Even though our brain is developmentally the same as a man's. It's just because men haven't faced consequences.
They never face consequences. It's like that saying, boys will be boys. Like guys, up until they're adults, it's literally, you're taught to just, oh, that's just a guy thing. You're just supposed to, like, that's
even
just a man.
Even as adults.
Yes, like, you literally.
They're like, oh, well, like, you know, like men are excused, like they don't have to wash the dishes or raise the children. Like that's still a thing, and that shouldn't be a thing. You know, they're not fucking children. They should do their own laundry. I could never ever date. What am I saying? I probably will never date again. But no, those type of men that if you can't do housework, boo boo, what you offering? Like I ain't your wife, I ain't your mom, I ain't taking care of you. You better cook and clean. You better do 50-50. Like I don't give a fuck. You still better pay all the bills. Like, no.
Right, like it's a partnership. It's not a, like, that's why I hate the whole dishwasher thing and all that stuff, because it continues to enforce these toxic societal gender norms that have just riddled our society and have made the narrative that women are inferior to men more and more prevalent. And you can
and then it's really obnoxious to me too, because it's like men started the dishwasher, or they'll be like, hey, pocket pussy. I'm like, yeah, that's not okay. And so women are like, hey, what's up, wallet? Which is objectively like not that bad compared to fucking calling a 12-year-old girl on the internet a fleshlight, you know?
Mm-hmm.
but they get so pressed about it, and then they'll be like, kill all women 2020, rape all women 2020. And the thing is, that's not a joke. They would actually like they value female lives so little. When people say kill all men, we don't really mean kill all men. At least most people don't,
Yeah.
I just want
Right.
to kill
And
all the
even
little
with
boys.
expressing frustration. But when men are like rape all women, it's like incels, and you're like, yeah, I know you believe that for real.
Oh yeah. Well, I
Which is
made like
disturbing.
6 videos on this guy who just continued to make the same video over and over again about like the do that to all women. And I was like, you are aware that like the internet is forever. Like I don't think these people understand. When you post this stuff on the internet, you are incriminating yourself, especially when you're saying stuff like, do that to all women. And it's not funny. It's not a joke to be made because inevitably you're continuing to push forward this narrative that it's okay to take advantage of women just because you see yourself as genetically inferior, which you are not in any way, shape, or form.
And then even with like those people who are like calling us dishwashers and whatever, like they're the ones that's saying that we don't need feminism, but it's like a proven, like there's statistics that show that even though like women have like progressed a lot in terms of like feminism, they're still like in terms of housework, women are now having jobs, having to take care of kids and still do majority of the housework while men do nothing. So you're just perpetuating that idea that we still have to do labor outside private public labor for our jobs because we all now need to have double income because we can't survive on one income anymore. And then on top of that, we have to do private labor, which is like housework and whatever, and including having babies.
I think it's because they don't weigh the labor that women do the same as labor that men do.
Yeah.
Constantly across the board. They don't think it's work.
Well, and they don't notice the very clear societal effects. Like every single time people say that we don't need this or this doesn't exist, it's always because they're in denial of the societal oppression or the societal factors that are continuing these narratives and continuing people to feel this way. Like they always bring up that women aren't very active in the STEM field, but they don't like to talk about the fact that women aren't encouraged to go into STEM. They're constantly told, well, that's a guy's field, that's a man's job. And when you're constantly told that, then of course you're not going to believe that. Of course, when you have years and years of people telling you cannot do something, then you're going to believe it. It's just what happens.
Yeah, for sure. One thing I really don't like about, like, I don't know if this is like white feminism, but it's really like toxic feminism where it'll just like totally undervalue like traditional like, female roles like teachers and nurses, and they'll tell young girls like, oh, you shouldn't do that because that's a woman's job. Like you still need those jobs, like obviously encourage women to go into STEM, but like those jobs are still valid.
Well,
and important.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And it's no coincidence that, the fields that women tend to dominate are also the ones that are, kind of underpaid. Like, teachers
extremely.
are extremely underpaid. Nurses are extremely underpaid. And if you even look at the way, and if you even look at the way that like we value majors, like the more feminine majors, like, I don't know, women and gender studies.
Oh God. That's what everyone always says, those degrees are pointless, but you don't realize that those degrees are imperative in moving our society forward. Like everyone always tells me like, oh, a psychology degree is pointless, a sociology degree is pointless, women and gender studies is pointless, but they're not pointless because they continue to help us progress. If everyone just went into STEM, if everyone just went into everything that's reliable and offers you a successful future, then we're not going to progress as a society. We're going to stay stagnant and then we're going to regress, which we're seeing now. Especially, we just cut off immigration.
This is what happens when you don't value
the 19th Amendment.
No, we are regressing too with the business field too. Like everybody wants a high-paying job that all the menial labor jobs like mechanics and AC people and those like jobs where it's like you just need those 2-year associate degrees. Those jobs are getting paid more now because they're so in demand and needed. Because it's like we're always going to have cars, we're always going to have ACs and things that need to be fixed. And it's like nobody wants to go into those professions because they're not seen as worthy anymore. But in reality, for society to function, we need the garbage man as much as we need doctors and stuff. But it's like even though the pay isn't the same, their job is just as important. Like imagine if there was nobody taking out everybody's garbage and it was just sitting there piling up in front of their house.
Well, you can see that when the government shut down. Was it like last summer or something?
I think it was early last year, January.
Yeah, it was January. But when the government shut down, all of the like garbage collectors and sanitation people, they weren't like picking up trash, and there was just like overflowing trash bins everywhere in DC. Like, it is necessary for life, and people just shit on them for no reason. Like, if you're gonna shit on these people, you don't get to use their services. If you're gonna harass like minimum wage grocery store employees, you don't get to go buy groceries. That should be a rule.
I seen this one video on TikTok. It was this one guy. Yes, he was Caucasian. He was basically saying, "Oh my, they're still good in this universe." Like, basically saying there's still good people out there. And the video was of a construction worker or somebody, like, he was in uniform working on duty, and he was basically like, one of the streets was flooding, and he had to go unclog the drain for the streets so it wouldn't flood anymore. He was like, oh, and he's basically making it seem like, oh, this person is doing such a kind thing out of the kindness of his heart, but in reality, he's probably getting paid really horrible to make everybody else's life better, and he's getting no recognition. Like, you try to make it seem like, oh yeah, he did a nice thing, but if you wanted him to recognize him, you would have called his boss and spoke to his boss saying, well, you have a great worker, you should probably give him a promotion. But it's like, people think recording somebody and helping somebody out for their clout, like trying to show that they're a good person, it literally makes you more of a disgusting person. Like, yeah, you gave this homeless person food and you took care of them, but you exploited their worst moments and put it on the internet for your own gain. So it's like, do you really feel better about yourself? Can you really sleep at night knowing you did that?
Yeah.
Same thing with like healthcare workers, where people are sharing photos of like the bruises and stuff they have from wearing masks all day. I'm like, just posting that on social media and like not really doing anything to help them is the same as like thoughts and prayers, you know?
Mm-hmm.
There's not enough like movements to like actually help people. It's just like
humans are
positive
selfish.
vibes sending your way. Yeah.
Well, and that's reflective on our culture itself. Like, we as a culture are very individualistic. We're all about our own personal gain because everyone wants to be the best. Everyone wants to, have the best paying job, the best life they can possibly have, because that's what America has inherently put into us. But when we look at other cultures, we look at, Native American culture, we look at Asian culture, everything is a lot more
family-based,
the betterment of everyone, family-based, intersectional, like, everyone's reliant on everyone. Whereas here it's like, oh, well, if you're not doing well, that's your own problem. You're lazy. You're all these.
Yeah,
but that's not even true.
Suffer the effects of capitalism. So should we like, let's talk about this because I'm really interested in this one. What can men and non-binary people do and stop doing to improve your experience as a woman on TikTok?
Be nice.
Yeah, be nice. For non-binary people,
just believe us. Just don't invalidate our opinion.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know about non-binary people, but definitely men need to just like know their place. Like, your opinion is not as valid as ours,
Exactly.
Like, you haven't experienced what we've experienced, so you wouldn't know.
Yeah.
Right. Like, we're all equal.
Yeah, and for non-binary people, I feel like it's almost on.
It's like when men try to go into.
What were you saying? Oh, okay, sorry. For non-binary people, I feel like it's definitely
I forgot what I was going to say.
Women to like, advocate for them, because non-binary people, they get it rough on TikTok. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, for non-binary people, especially as someone who, prides themselves as being an LGBTQ plus activist, it's so important, especially with non-binary people, to have a equal way of respect for them as a community, because they are very marginalized, especially in social media, because they're constantly told, you're not valid, your gender identity isn't valid, and constantly being told that does inherently cause some negative connotation with the whole community. Especially with, heterosexual people or heteronormative people. Like, that's just how it is. When you constantly are pushed down your entire life, then of course you're going to face some sort of anger towards that community that has constantly put you down.
To like specifically with men, because with non-binary people, they already have like so much going, like oppression happening for them. But with men specifically, they need to acknowledge their privilege that they have. And I think like with the Simp Hive House, they recognize that, and they do a lot to combat the negatives that are happening on TikTok. Just because you're a man and you acknowledge that you have privilege and whatever, if you're not doing something, you're still actively like working with the patriarchy. And so if you see someone like commenting something like super misogynistic or sexist on someone's post, respond to that, because unfortunately with our society, they're more likely to listen to a man than a woman to like stick up for us. And like, don't just sit back and be like, I have privilege, that's it. Because you actually have to work actively against your privilege. instead of just acknowledging it.
Yeah, and I can already like see how these conversations go, because I think that the simp hype house was appropriately named because, well, not even really appropriately named, because people use the word simp incorrectly. Whenever a man is like sharing something even remotely like pro-woman, God forbid, he's called a simp. And then if that happens, just say you don't know what the word simp means. Shut up. And then that's the end of the conversation.
I made like a few videos where I was like, if a 12-year-old boy on the internet calls you a simp, you're probably doing something right. I've actually made a lot of videos where I'm like, simp is not a bad term anymore. It's just like a term for men that respect women. And I've had several men like message me, be like, you've made me like I used to feel bad about getting called a simp, but now I know that like I'm doing something right. Or like I used to be an incel, but now I know that that's wrong from your TikToks. And I was like,
it's like soy boy. Like simp is slowly replacing like soy boy, kind of. I'm not even sure if soy boy is like as relevant, but it's like the same concept.
I'm not even sure what soy boy is.
Isn't soy boy like a way to refer to like men who are kind of more on the feminine side to like kind of describe? Yeah.
Yes.
And I think that comes into play with like, gender roles and gender binary. Like even when we talk about that, like men can have inherently feminine qualities and women can have inherently masculine qualities. Like just because they have those qualities doesn't make them any less of who they are. And I think that calling men simps and calling them soy boys is a way to discredit them or make them feel worse for who they are. Like, God forbid a man does the basic minimum of respecting women. Like, that's all we ask, is that you just respect us as human beings.
Like, don't rape women, and they're like,
and all of us, not just ones that you find attractive or you're related to.
It's like starting to fall into the
I made a TikTok specifically about like, I think it's very interesting how men, especially the ones that do this often, they'll like be the ones that like put the towel on their heads and they'll do a lot of like feminine movements, like traditionally feminine, whatever. And I think it's really because like they want to be feminine in some certain ways, but because they're doing it in a joke, it's like not taken seriously. When like it's okay to be feminine sometimes, you don't have to be masculine all the time. But like the fact that you're making it into as a joke, so when you're making femininity as a joke, like that's like not okay.
Something interesting about the manosphere, as it's called, is like how many names they assign themselves in order to like distinguish between like the ultra masculine chads and then the beta cucks who are subservient to women somehow. It's like, it's so fascinating to me, like how like actively they try to like suppress their own masculinity. It's crazy.
Oh yeah, I mean, they'll use like
too many labels. They'll be like, there's too many pronouns and too many like genders now, like this is ridiculous. And then they'll call themselves like jaw cells or like bone structure cells or something. And I'm like, what are you talking about?
Right. And like men then have so many words for women too. I mean, for me personally, I was lucky enough to get a feature on the Nick Fuentes show, where he talked about how I was the stereotypical C word, and that if you looked up in the dictionary, you would see my C word face. And I don't like the kid, but Nick Videos, who had like who made a video defending me on TikTok, he was like, and Nick Videos is simping for this girl because he's like attracted to her. And I'm like, no, he literally just did the basic bare minimum of being a decent human being and telling people to not harass a woman for literally voicing her opinion. Like the bare minimum makes you a simp, I guess.
Yeah.
Or they have to like back like a feminine or nice response to another male by saying no homo. Like it's gay if you respect another male too.
Like that's so weird. Like how does respecting another man make you gay? Like how
Makes you feminine somehow
do you have to be to equate being kind to another man or respecting another man or giving a compliment as gay? Like I compliment women all the time and I don't equate that to being like attracted to that specific woman.
It's like they are just insecure in their own sexuality that they don't want to admit it, but they want to like guise it as that, like, oh no homo, I would never do that. I'm like, why do you gotta say it like that?
Exactly. And that again, that goes all the way back to, people being told that they have to be masculine. They have to,
toxic masculinity.
Exactly. And that's what we talk about when we're talking about toxic masculinity. We're not talking about men as a species. We're talking about like the actual like what's the word? Like the actual connotation
of men.
In the actual like system. like not them specifically, but the system that makes them act that way.
Yeah, like the patriarchy in itself always circles back to that.
Yeah.
Could you any guys would be comfortable coming out of the closet if toxic masculinity didn't exist?
Yes.
Like how many guys would be
Absolutely.
very
Probably, yeah.
I think, you know how there's like I really think that more men would like be more flexible with their sexuality if like, they were as open-minded as women with their own sexuality. Because women are like, you know,
Yeah.
I see, I don't know the exact numbers on this, so I don't want to say anything, but like I think there are a lot more bi men out there than
Definitely.
There's a study that's been done that said way more women identify as bi than men. Men are more likely to say they're straight or gay. Like there's a very small percentage of men who will be like, yeah, I'm like bisexual.
Because for guys, they can't be bisexual. Other men don't allow that. Where it's just like,
right.
Yeah, they don't. It's not like respected.
Well, and also like there's also this narrative that like if you're bisexual, you're like just waiting to it's a stage and like being gay, which isn't a thing because I've met numerous bisexual people and like being that myself, like it's like if I could choose to one or the other, that would make my life so much easier. Because on one way, I wouldn't have to deal with men. In the other case, I wouldn't have to deal with, you know, certain kinds of women. So like there's a double-edged sword on both ends. Like it's just society telling you that like you cannot do this because you're just in the closet, so you haven't fully come into your own.
Yeah. I think we should answer the one question. Do you consider your
be gay? Like that would have saved me a lot of issues. Like I'd much rather deal with girls than guys.
Honestly.
There's the dating pool is so small. Like
Yup.
So question, do you guys consider your feminist content, well, your content on TikTok in general as activism?
So we have another question.
I think so. Yeah. I mean, I don't know.
I feel like
it doesn't feel like activism.
You
it
know,
doesn't feel like activism, at least from my content. It just feels like doing the right thing. But apparently, that's like a huge political stance, and all these women will be like, "Thank you for calling him out." Like this is so revolutionary, and I'm like, I'm just saying that like this is not okay. You know, I don't feel like I'm doing.
You're just saying
a huge like service to society.
What we think is common sense, other people think as intelligence. Like it's really funny. Being a decent being is seen as insane. Like if you're just a kind person with no motives or anything unintentional, like just seeing somebody that actually wants to do good for others, that's what activism is. Like you're just making awareness and speaking up for people that can't speak up for themselves. And most people don't understand that because they will never do something out of the kindness of their heart because they want to. They need a benefit.
Yeah, I really want to do like more with the platform that I've gained because right now it just feels like I'm saying things and I'm in, you know, like people will like give me those presents on a live stream or for whatever reason. And I'm like, you know what? Like, why don't I make a live stream and then funnel all the profits to like, I don't know, a women's shelter or something like that. Like there's definitely more I could do with my platform and it's all in the works. But as of right now, I can't really do much because I don't have any tools to do that. So
I've gotten like Ko-Fi and PayPal notifications and people will leave little messages and they're like, thank you for being a feminist on this platform. And I'm like, this is just the right thing to do. This is not like
again, like rewarding people for doing the bare minimum.
It feels uncomfortable to me because people will be like, queen. And I'm like, I feel like I don't know. It feels uncomfortable for people to be like, yes, woke queen, when I'm just doing like the bare minimum, in my opinion.
It's crazy though that we have to like, it is the bare minimum, but the fact of that it is considered activism in the way of like spreading knowledge and education, because that's one of like the biggest things about activism. Like in the fact of it's like bare minimum to us because it's simply our existence, but it really is like fighting for our life. It's just so sad to me that we have to like fight for the bare minimum and have like activism about just having to live freely without oppression.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
I will say though that when I do post feminism stuff, I get like way more hate, and I've had like some of my friends or like other female creators be like, yeah, I don't post stuff like that because I know it'll give me hate, and I'm like,
which is so sad. I feel like that's why so
Yeah.
many women on TikTok are anti-feminist. Like there are so many of them. And they're like,
Yeah.
I don't consider
let's get
myself a feminist.
Yeah, let's get into
Yes.
this
I
question.
mean, that's where like the pick me girl thing comes from. It's like a pick me is not like a thing that women perpetuate. It's men who are like putting down female interests or putting down feminism. And so girls feel obligated to like reject like feminine things, you know? That's not a thing that women created. It's like most of the things that negatively affect men are caused by men, you know?
Right. I mean, and for me, I like, again, my work is mostly LGBTQ activist work, and looking more and more into the laws that are in place that just blatantly do not protect these people is disgusting. Like, I looked into the LGBTQ panic defense, and my state, which is one of the most progressive states in the entire United States, had one of the first transgender protection laws for bathroom policies, doesn't have this like outlawed. Like there are only 10 states on this list. And I was like, everyone just like call your local law enforcement. Like there's so many things that you can do. And like just telling people like get involved, like just to call their representative is like such a big step in itself, because it's spreading awareness and it's telling people like you as someone who's just watching me can do something, like to do the bare minimum as well to try and help these people who clearly do need help. Because the groups that are affected by these laws, like it's scary and it affects our prison industrial complex wildly.
So, so thoughts on anti-feminist women on TikTok pick me's? Anybody else have like any thoughts on that?
I have a lot of thoughts. I think that a lot of these women do it because, especially like younger girls, because I was saying this in our group chat last night, but I feel like a lot of these people that just say these ignorant and bigoted things are doing it for attention because they know that it makes people upset. And so they're like, I want to be cool. I want to have everyone hate me, when like simply like that's actually not what you want to believe. That's just, you just want attention, and it's okay to want attention, but like let's like flip it and have it be good attention.
Yeah. I agree with that.
I think it kind of comes from this idea that like everyone's already equal too. There's like, well, why do we need to push for everyone's equal? But until you really research and get educated on it, it doesn't become apparent.
Well, it's feigning the idea of equality. Our society is so good at feigning the idea that everyone is equal. You know, everyone thinks that racism ended once the Civil Rights Bill was passed, but it didn't, because then we had the war on drugs, which is another oppressive system that has affected, you know, the Black community. And we see it. And as like, if you even do like the bare minimum research, like if you read one book, like I always tell people to go read The New Jim Crow, because once you read that book, it's my favorite book.
Then,
it's the one thing
like,
I always recommend.
And
we talk about like,
you want to go?
Sorry.
Well,
yeah, I can say,
yeah, you go.
We talk about like Black Power in the 60s and civil rights movement, or like, and then racism ended, but people are forgetting about like the Red Power movement and the Yellow Power movement. I'm like, Native American women really couldn't vote until the 70s, and there's still so many obstacles for Native American people to vote. Like, it's ridiculous. Actually, all people of color, there's so many like sketchy systems in place to like, you know, limit their right to vote. And people are like, oh, well, it's legal or it's illegal, so now we're equal. And I'm like, that doesn't mean that it doesn't happen. Just because rape is illegal doesn't mean it doesn't happen, you know?
Exactly.
And, you know, I was thinking in regards to like all of these ignorant people on TikTok, and especially the pick-me's, you know, it's not, when I critique you, it's not coming from a place of malice, but a place from, I was literally you. You think I don't know how you think, bitch? Like,
yes.
Literally.
Like,
yeah, no, for men, when I like critique men, I'm definitely like, I don't like you at all. But when I talk to like women who are like anti-feminist, I feel that, because like when, you know, I feel like a lot of younger women have the idea where it's like, oh, fuck feminism, fuck feminine things. Like, I was that person. I understand how you're thinking. Or people that are like, you know, I made some comment about how like when I used to go to concerts or parties and a guy would like come up to me and like start, you know, being nasty, I'd be like, oh, well, you know, he just grabbed my ass, so it's no big deal. But now I'm like, that's totally not okay. I'm allowed to say something about it, you know? It's just, you have to learn that like, it's okay to, like, your opinion isn't invalid because men don't like it, you know? You don't need male approval for everything in your life.
Like, I was raised Republican. Like, I was raised like
Same.
Republican, and now I'm like super far left. It's like it's almost like actually reading and doing your own research benefits you. Almost.
Almost.
Tell
What
me
if,
that, like,
what if that were the case?
I read
What
this
is
comment that
research?
was like the CDC and the WHO were like too leftist, like, and I was like, it's almost like the left uses facts, you know, that's what the WHO and the CDC do. So, you know, maybe that's why you think they're leftist.
Everything is a leftist feminist conspiracy, and no one can convince me.
Yeah, exactly. Or the Jewish conspiracy, yeah, that's still going on for
Oh God.
I don't fucking know why. Fucking Nazis came into my comments, and I was like, dude, I'm not even Jewish. Why are you like telling me the Nazis should have killed me? I'm not even Jewish. Get out of here.
I'm not even genetically
And then they'd be
Jewish.
like, you're lying.
There's questions on the
Like,
side.
What are you talking about?
I didn't realize that we were like getting like literal questions from people. Okay, so Maddie1497 asks, how do you guys deal with cognitive dissonance in your anti-women opponents while debating? I'd imagine it could get frustrating. Yeah, you know, like
I do not debate.
You gotta point out the fallacy in like what they're saying first. You have to be able to know what that
Not
is and
that
do
they'd,
research
like-
on that. But
Not
some
that
battles you
take
can't win.
that into consideration. Yeah, no, I don't think I'm like a political account like you, Abby, so I don't think I'd ever want to go into a debate just because I know that I'd get like harassed for it, especially with like Nick videos, like, you know, but I'm open to debating people like in person. I just, as a rule, I'm not going to do it online because it's too hard to like get through to them through
Well,
a screen.
And it's not even about my issue with TikTok debates is that it's not about educating people. Like it has turned
Yeah,
into
it's just
something
about
that's
like
about
winning.
And that's so toxic. Like when I debate people, my purpose is to try and educate them on my standpoint and why I believe what I believe. But if you're just doing it for the point of like for the purpose of winning, then why are we even doing this? Like if you already think that your ideas are superior to mine, then why are we discussing this?
I think too
Especially if
with
they
that
can
you have
back it up
to,
with like facts.
like Mariah was saying, I think you also have to like choose your battles because some people like they just aren't simply going to understand and try to understand, and it is like just wasting your energy on people isn't like okay mentally. And like with becoming like a political TikToker or just being a TikToker that talks about social issues, you have to know when to take breaks from yourself from TikTok because TikTok is extremely toxic, and you have to also have like outlets like talking to other people to like be able to let this out. Like my personal outlet is my mom. I don't even know, she's probably watching this right now, and I literally would just like go to her room and scream about like all these misogynistic and racist comments. You have to have outlets and just to be able to like decide if is this worth it? Is it really worth it?
Okay, I did do that the other day. I just went in my car and drove around for like an hour and just screamed the entire time I was driving. Because I was just so fed up with people like just being awful in my comments.
I mean, for me, like, I think the only time I ever had to private my account was with the whole Groyper situation. Because aside from that, after I post my video, I'll look at the comments for like 5 minutes. But after that point, I'm like, I'm not even like touching that video. That video is gone. Like whatever people do with it is their own thing. I'm not even going to acknowledge it because if I keep looking at it, it's going to continue to cause me anxiety and stress. And if it doesn't make me happy, then why am I going to continue to dwell on it?
Right.
It's a good skill, or like not checking the duets.
Oh.
Yeah.
I'm just like, I can't.
Duet. Whatever. Okay, this is actually.
Okay, I don't mind checking duets because the ones that I've gotten were like so blatantly stupid that I could just reduet them and then they delete the video. So I was like, this is fine with me.
So this is a really interesting question. Comrade Stash asks thoughts on men using custody rates to say that men are oppressed, which is like a typical men's rights activist
I saw that question earlier, so I pulled up like an article because I took a European history class I don't even remember, like 2 or 3 semesters ago. And it's actually interesting because people bring up like women get, you know, like they're more likely to get custody and divorce, which is true, and that's fucked up. But the thing is, that wasn't how it was always. You know, historically, men got custody because they were like the breadwinners. You know, so if a couple got divorced or something, they'd throw the women out on the streets and they put the kid with the dad. And then in the like Reformation era, especially in Europe, they began to give women the right to, you know, have custody of their children. With the Victorians, there's the whole like cult of domesticity, and you know, women were like, there's more emphasis on like building the home and stuff, you know. So that's relatively
like
new
gender role stereotypes play into
law
that.
that men also created. Like
Exactly.
Exactly.
They're like realizing that it's working against them, but they're blaming it on feminism.
Yes.
They do blame it on the women. They're
says,
like, they created this. I was like, no.
There's
Yeah.
one called the Custody of Infants Act, and it removed the assumption that the child would remain with the father, and it allowed a woman to petition for custody of her child.
Well, and also, like, I think those institutes, like, also protect victims of domestic violence. And domestic violence particularly affects POC and LGBTQ women. Because I was doing a lot of research on this for an abortion debate I was having. And Black women, I believe are 55% more likely to be a victim of domestic abuse. And, you know, when we're looking at with custody, then of course you're going to prioritize giving the child to the mother, especially in a domestic violence situation, because you're putting the child's life at risk. And especially in these situations, once the female figure's gone, the actual target, then the abuser will go to the next best thing, which is the genetic makeup of the exact same person.
Yeah. For me, like the main problem I have with men's rights activists is it's all just virtue signaling. You know what I mean? Like they're not actually saying anything. If you want to talk about, you know, unfair custody rates or whatever, then why don't we start talking about domestic violence? Why don't we start talking about the wage gap? Why don't we start talking about the unpaid domestic labor, maternity leave, paternity leave? Like let's actually talk about it, because right now it just seems like you are, like I said, virtue signaling. So
it's like the argument of when like Black Lives Matter, like a Black person's like Black Lives Matter, and then someone's like All Lives Matter. Like yes, they're all
doing that shit in my comments because I changed my profile picture, and they're like, why are you like calling out white people? And I was like, because they need to be called out. Like,
and society has coddled white people for so long.
Yeah. And if you want to talk about these issues that men are facing, like feminists are talking about these issues. Feminists are the ones that are trying to stop it. Been talking about it. So like if you want to have like a productive conversation, then let's have it, but don't bring it up to be like men are oppressed too, because that's not proactive.
Yeah, because they're the same people where their male friend will be like, I was raped, and they'll be like, did you like it though? Like they're not the people that are gonna be supportive of them. They just want to silence women, which is why you have to be even louder, because men are gonna go ape shit every time you call out something.
Right.
Shake my head. No, and then someone in my comments had the fucking audacity. I was like, men need to stop commenting on my body. And they're like, why are you targeting men? And I'm like, because it's only white men misgendering me and like making fun of my body. A woman has never done that in my comment section.
Yeah.
Like,
this is a really interesting one. From Cassiopeia. How manageable is hate on TikTok? Are there decent tools to protect yourself, or curate an audience considering making trans content on TikTok? If you are trans, you're in for a rough ride. I'll tell you that right now. Probably rougher than anyone.
It's really bad.
Color, it is rough on TikTok for trans people. And like manageable, you know, for hate, once like one community gets a hold of you, like the Groypers, for example, or like mainstream conservatives or what have you, like the hate is unstoppable. It's like a snowball effect, you know. Once one community or one person of a community decides to hate you, it's just like that afterwards, you know. And
which is why I try like not to interact with like the Groypers and people like Nick and Lance, you know. Like I'm not gonna touch that shit because I don't want to get doxxed. I don't want to get fucking harassed on my page. Like, thankfully, enough of my followers are like awesome that they'll like defend me in the comments. You know, I mean, I had to turn off comments for one video today, which is the first time I've ever done that, because usually I'm just like, I can take it, even though it hurts. But this was just way too much for me, because it was about like sexualizing women in Star Wars and then bashing them at the same time, and dudes were just like, fuck you, go kill yourself. And I was like, yeah, this is too much for me. So I just turned the comments off.
I don't think
But
there's
usually it's
wrong with that
fairly
either.
manageable, I think.
Yeah, just if something is like too much for you, or if the hate is too much in your comment section that's just attracted like a bunch of racist transophobes or something like that, then just turn them off. It'll piss them off even more. And
Yeah, or
like,
delete them, yeah. No, and then people will be like, you deleted my comment. I'm like, I never touched your comment.
It's like it got filtered out because it was so bad.
Yeah, you like it got blocked because you're being a piece of shit. Like,
and like, don't feel weak for like blocking people and like deleting comments because it's your content. And if you don't want transphobic, if you don't want racist stuff on your content, then that's completely fine. You're not weak for that because it's your content.
right, it's in like
some dude tried to like
like what?
Some dude tried to tell me like you can't delete my comment or whatever because it's freedom of speech, and I was like, I'm debating with you like civilly, and you're calling me names and stuff. And also, I do have the right to delete your comment. It's my like channel.
I bet, and I blocked them.
Report you.
Yeah,
I leave it up because I like seeing them roasted. It's hilarious.
Or like you have to like reply with the video.
Yeah. I went through and literally blocked.
And then they'll be like, some dude got mad at me for replying to one of his comments with a video. He's like, this is really immature. And I was like, it's immature to leave like a Nazi comment. Like
exactly. Like, oh, like again, it's
if you're gonna comment that shit, I'm gonna call you out. Like,
right. Yeah. I went through.
It's just I'm like, are you stupid?
Or you gotta block the Pepe profile pictures.
Yeah, every Pepe profile picture you see, blocked.
Block it every time.
I don't even feel bad about that.
Or like the weird incel cartoon where the guy's like,
yeah,
like crying or whatever.
Yeah, right.
I'm like, I don't trust you automatically.
Well, like it's for me, like I saw what happened. Was it Gothic or whatever? Was that?
Yeah.
Yes,
So,
Gothic.
I saw what happened.
He like made fun of Nick's appearance or something, and then all of the groypers came and like mass reported her, even though she's like objectively better than Nick.
Yeah.
Like I don't think you should make fun of people. I don't make fun of people's appearances just because I feel like that gives them a platform to like invalidate your opinion. And also it's like if you say something's ugly on like a groyper, then someone who has that feature that's not a groyper would be like, oh, I'm ugly. So I as a rule don't call out people's appearances, but you know, the difference between calling Nick ugly and Nick saying like women or just Nick assaulting women, you know.
Right.
I call people ugly because they have ugly personalities. It's not because of your physical appearance.
Yeah.
It's because you think that it's okay to be a predator towards women. That's why you're ugly.
Well, and also like when I was dealing with the groypers, like they would constantly come at me for my appearance. And I have a thing where like if you come for my appearance, then like I got doxed like up the wazoo. I got doxed again today, actually. Fun fact. We're at a whole hand now 5 times. I'm an expert now.
I'm shocked at how much hate you get. Like it is terrifying to me.
This is a question I want to ask you.
Insane.
Like how do you find out that you're doxed? Does somebody like how do you even find out about that?
So
I'm
what's
curious about that
happened
too.
is people the first time someone just commented my address that I was at a school. That was the first time. But other times people will either like DM my address to me, post it on a TikTok that later gets taken down, which was what happened today. Someone posted my address on Twitter and Reddit, so we think it's probably on the dark web. So like it's just
You're way braver than me. If I got doxxed, I'd fucking buy a tent and go like live in the woods. Like I'd be so scared.
Oh yeah, I'm just gonna like cry.
Groypers are crazy, dude.
They're like they are just so insecure that their entire movement is threatened by strong women and strong POC who are not able to be corrupted by their narrative because they harp on victims, they harp on people who are social outcasts. Those are their demographic to try and latch onto. And if they can try and make someone feel so bad that they can like at least try and
like kill
ideas,
themselves,
then they'll do it.
Yep. So yep.
Oh, this is an awesome question.
Which one?
Cog says, what are your thoughts on celebrity men being treated like gods for speaking about social issues, whereas women are often silent?
Oh God. I mean
I have so many opinions about it. Like, you know, men should be supportive.
They're again being
stuff.
praised
That's
for doing
important. It's just very fresh. It's like, I don't know if you've seen that sound where it's like, And if I say this, like, this will make me TikTok famous. And the guy's like, yeah, something like, they like it when it comes out of your mouth instead of mine. For some reason, I feel that so much.
Yeah, I've seen that.
It's also like the one sound that's like, you're late, the war has already started. Like, people,
Yeah.
feminists have been working for this for forever. And it's like, it's just very frustrating when, like, especially I see this with people of color creators, that like we will be saying the same exact things and then our content will be taken down, but then a white person
will be
says
like,
it, and then they get a million likes and they're like, you are solving racism. You are the cure to racism. Like, and it's like really hard.
Which, like, obviously it's like important to be like allies, but it's so frustrating to see like I love everyone in the Simp Hype House. Like, I love the Simp Hype House, but it's like people be like, you're a simp, or they'll be like, oh yes, kings. And it's like when women do even less than that, you know, like less political. Well, I got like a fucking Holocaust death threat, and I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah, Emma got those today too, actually, which is scary.
Yeah. I'm not even Jewish. I've never said anything about being Jewish or trans, and people fucking come to my channel and they're like,
they just love to
I'm like,
assume.
we need to leave.
It's especially frustrating
I'm like, I
because
don't
as people who like are currently oppressed, and like it's very exhausting just to live in our bodies and to constantly go through society. And the fact that we are also being activists and that we're also talking about those things is very hard. And so then when a white person or like a male does it, then they're like not affected by this like at all to the extent that we are. And so then they're praised about it. And it's like, yeah, they can put their phone down and it's whatever. They're not going to face it again. But Black people and like women have
we
to
go out in
the world
society and it faces us in the real world. Like,
yes,
we get harassed online and get death threats, and it's like, you know, you put the phone down, but it's like you're going to go outside and you're going to get groped by a man on the subway. You know, you can't escape it ever. And I saw a TikTok recently where this girl was like, I'm just so sick of like having to defend myself and my rights and just groypers being groypers and people trying to take away our 19th minute. It just makes me want to give up. And I was like, that's how they win. Like, it's exhausting and I hate it, but I'm also not gonna let fucking groypers come into my comments and just harass people, because it's like,
that's how I filtered out all
I'm not
their.
gonna let them
I think the
win.
best thing is to not platform them. Like, I'm tired of big creators, like really big creators, platforming them and like trying to like change them, because it's just
that's true.
perpetuating their ideologies.
Well, and that's my issue with the conservative hype house Zoom. Now, like I was in the Zoom, like, and I will totally take responsibility that was like irresponsible and stupid, and that was platforming them in a way. But also, they have yet to apologize for actually giving him a platform and helping him spread his message to TikTok. And they hide it behind the guise of, oh, it's free speech. Well, yes, it's free speech, but free speech.
That doesn't mean that you can't get punished for it.
Exactly. Like, we can call you out for platforming someone because you did. That's what you did. And you should apologize for that, because you have potentially harmed numerous people just by putting him on a platform. Like, there are so many people who have been negatively affected solely because of that Zoom call happened.
I don't like the standard that you guys were held to compared to the other side. It was very unfair.
Well, because I was kicked out of Ladies of the Left because I was in the Zoom call. And that was it.
That's very, very interesting how, like, you know, I think at the end of the day, you know, you're never going to get an apology from either Nick nor Lance, you know, whoever was in the Zoom call.
At all. Or they'll delete it.
Because
it's not a real apology at all.
Yeah, they don't care. They don't care. Nick is in a way on their side, and
because it doesn't affect them. It doesn't affect them at all.
Right. Exactly. You know,
they might not doxed.
Yeah, like, exactly. And they might not agree with Nick on everything, but he still identifies as a paleo conservative or whatever. He's still on the right, and any movement that, you know, supports that, I don't know. That's why I don't think they'll ever apologize. Why the fuck would they care?
No, and that's my issue is whenever I call them out, they're like, well, we're not like that. I'm like, but you vote for the same person that these people vote for. You vote for the same things these people vote for, which is allowing them to move the goalpost on you to push you into their ideology. Do you not see how not calling them out is going to inherently push their narrative further into the mainstream media? And they love to talk about the alt-left.
Yeah, the alt-left.
Yeah, no, I'll go on like a rant or something, and some dude will come into my live stream. Actually, a lot of dudes are conservative, and they'll comment and they'll be like, "Well, I'm voting for Trump. Like, I like women." I'm like, "No, you don't. Like, what are you talking about?"
You know, I was on
Twitter, like, why are you here?
Yeah, I was on Twitter the other day, and I think it was like, I can't remember if it was like something that Nick posted or Lance posted, I don't know. But like in the comments below it, a bunch of groypers were saying like, oh, come to our side, like come, you know, you come home, or whatever the fuck they were saying. Like,
oh yeah, come home.
Realize like that literal Nazis are actively trying to recruit them in order to like gain a larger platform. Does it process?
Like, use your brain.
No, and then people like, oh, to repeal the 19th movement. Well, they say this about fascism and racism too, which is fucking stupid. But now they're saying about repeal the 19th. They're like, when you talk about this, you're just giving them a bigger platform. Like, you should just ignore it. I'm like, no, that's how people become Nazis. Like,
if we ignore it,
it's not going to go away. You have to fight against it actively, because those people are so good at manipulating people to join them.
Like, the reason why mass incarceration is so bad is because people were like, there's no more racism. No, it's racism. And so then those systems transform into a way that we can no longer see it. And so then that's just going to keep on happening if we keep ignoring these issues.
Right.
Yes, and that's why, you know, going back to the initial question that was asked, you know, if a celebrity or somebody with a large platform is advocating for, you know, a minority group, great, fine. But make sure you're going to listen to that minority group or whatever group is being oppressed.
Yeah, and you're not overspeaking them too.
Yeah, because odds are you're not getting the full story from this person. In fact, this person is probably just trying to like maintain their reputation in some way. You know, the people who have something to lose are the ones you should be listening to.
Right. See, my issue too with this whole thing that's going on is they're saying they're not part of the groypers, not part of the alt-right, but their entire Discord is full of those people, and they're being enabled by these big people on TikTok. Well, but if your entire group that is supporting you is these people, then do you not speak for them? That is the group that you are representing.
I actually did not know that. I haven't been on Discord, so I didn't know that. Like, is it like what Discord is it?
It's Lance's Discord for this war, and Kendall, one of the leftist TikTokers, joined it like incognito, and she went on the voice channel, and she sent me clips of it, and they were actively talking about doxing people, saying the N-word. It was all America first. And Lance was in the voice call. He was in the voice call, and he was like, "We need to find a mod, guys.
Leak it.
Honestly,
yeah, no. If you're a big creator and your platform, your like followers or whatever are like using your platform to bounce off like alt-right ideas, and you're not saying anything about it, you're literally perpetuating that. You just stop it."
Exactly.
Yep.
Like, I have a Discord, and I think the most offensive thing anyone has ever posted was just like a Lego dude with a dick.
Well,
like, we have like a giant list of rules for what you can and cannot post.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go eat dinner, but it was so awesome to talk to you guys. We should do this again.
I agree.
Yeah.
Bye, guys. Have a good one.
Bye.
Okay.
There's a couple questions left.
Yeah, we can answer these last two questions.
Yeah, I think there's.
So, Diary of a Simpy Kid 39, username says, so a lot of girls I meet are just like, no, I don't want to call.
Yeah, I love a username.
Like, I do want to stay at home and stuff. So basically this person is asking, you know, is it okay to be traditionalist in terms of like gender roles? And I'd say yes. Like, again, it's like a spectrum of how you want to be. And like, it's totally your choice. But if you're one of those people that's like, all women should be in the kitchen and it's our duty and our nature,
exactly.
Others, then
same thing with women who are like, all women need to be in the workforce. I'm like a feminist.
That like falls into like the whole like mom Twitter mom shaming category, where like if you're not a traditionalist, like, and I think the only one that has children whose experience is like, I want to work, but they're like, why would you want to work? Like, you're taking what you have for granted. You're staying home. You need to do that. I was like, just because you want that doesn't mean that I have to want that. And like, you can do that, but don't make laws or anything to force me to do that.
I have no problem with like women wanting to be like subservient to men, as long as you're not trying to fucking push that into politics. Like, I believe in your right to like go be in the kitchen and, you know, be a homemaker. You need to, you know, advocate for my right to go work. Like,
and I wouldn't even like, I'd discourage, you know, traditionalist women from even like seeing themselves as subservient to men, because it's like, you know, that in and of itself is oppressive. So you need to like restructure that in your brain before you pursue that lifestyle. Like you need to understand that you are not at all subservient to your husband. You have just as much power as he does, and don't let him walk all over you is like my only suggestion. My main suggestion.
You gotta hold your ground and like keep it respectful. Like, you have to have someone that respects you and what you're doing and like knows that it's work and it's not just something that they're entitled to have.
I was also going to say the same thing, just like knowing like why do you want to be like that? Let's dissect that first, and then let's look about the history of why that happened to women. And I think he also was mentioning about how they were like a lot of girls just I don't want equality. I don't think you understand what equality really means.
Well, it's just because you don't want it. You don't have to go out and vote. You don't have to go do those things.
Like,
don't do
don't
that. But don't take it away from me.
Yeah.
So I'm a lot more sympathetic to women that say that kind of stuff than men, because men are already in a place of power. So I'm more likely to go yell at some man. But if a woman's like, oh, I don't believe in equality, or, you know, I'm subservient to men, I'm like, well, why do you think that? You know, like, I want to give them a voice. I don't, because it's not their fault that they're like that, you know, it's because they're raised in a patriarchal and probably like some conservative religious background, you know.
Religion plays a big part in it, unfortunately.
It really does. So
if you like yell at those women and stuff, like they're, you know, we're already demonized by the alt-right, you know. If you yell at people and stuff, then they're gonna, you know, be validated, or their opinion is gonna be validated.
Yeah. Yep. Elia LeBlanc says, how did you all come to be the role models that you have become? I don't consider myself a role model, like, at all.
Yeah, me either.
It seems strange, but like people like you're famous.
Like, I really
people see me as a role model, which makes me very nervous, because I don't like being held up to such a high standard. And like, I've done problematic shit in the past. Like, I have not been a great person in the past, you know. I'm trying to be the best person I can be, because there's like little kids looking up to me, and I'm like, oh geez, I'm a role model now. It's just like, I didn't try to be a role model. It's just when people started looking up to me, I was like, shit, man, I gotta like, I
think that's the best thing you can do is just like own all the things you've done and admit it. Like, we all have made mistakes and have said problematic things, but if you don't learn from that, you can't like grow.
Yeah, if you're actively trying to like improve yourself and stuff, then I think that's the biggest part of like being a good person, you know. Nobody wakes up and they're like,
yeah,
like, you know,
no one's born into like, you know, this, you know, this.
Yeah.
Yeah, because people like have natural like biases, you know, just like that's just how people work psychologically. And you have to like unlearn that stuff.
Exactly. And I feel like exactly what Mariah said, you know, like, it's not, I wouldn't consider myself a role model, but I do consider someone who's actively trying to undo the ignorance that I was, you know, indoctrinated into. And I'll always encourage my audience to do the same, because I'm going to fuck up sometimes, and they're going to fuck up sometimes, and we're all going to fuck up together until we finally reach a conclusion.
You know, the weird irony though is when you go to school and get the education, that's when they think you get indoctrinated, but in really like reality, you're undoing it.
You're right. Isn't that funny? Everything is leftist propaganda, as I've said. Everything is
really.
I enjoy listening to like conservative podcasts sometimes, because I can disprove what they're saying. Like, I want to hear why they think what they think, but then I'm still right, because like my opinion doesn't change because I have like facts to back them up, you know. But I'm curious to what other people believe, you know.
I think I would answer the question kind of differently, because I do kind of see myself as like a role model in like what I post.
That's good.
Also, I've just been hearing it a lot, you know, like as I've been like growing up, because I wasn't like, my mom and like my family is very progressive, so I never really had to go through that like Republican stage that a lot of people have to go through, unfortunately. But I was definitely, you know, like, I wasn't perfect. I like body shamed. I was kind of like, I was a feminist in the fact of like, I can do what men can do, but then I was also like, fuck feminism at the same time, you know?
Yeah.
So I definitely see myself as a role model, because I like grew from that. I became like a kinder person in general. But how I became a role model, I think, is definitely like having those like strong like women figures, like not just my family, but a lot of my friends who have pushed me to become like who I am today. And so I think like surrounding yourself around people that you want to be like is like the best way to do it, I'd suggest.
Yeah, perfect. Love that. All right, should we wrap it up? Should we?
I think so. It's been almost 2
I think
hours.
we're on the last question, right?
Yeah, so the last question,
Tell us where to find you on TikTok and other social media platforms.
Yeah, my username is the exact same everywhere. So
yeah, my username is in the parentheses.
Just
and
everyone.
My Instagram. Well,
mine is a little different.
My TikTok bio.
So mine is, my TikTok name is Sriracha Marie, like as the name on the live stream is. But then on my like other social media, it's Soraya and then Marie. So it's like the same as just Sriracha switched on my social media.
I think if anyone wants to see more talks like this, where it's just a discussion and not necessarily like a debate, where we can talk about issues like this, even with like conservatives, and bring more of the community together, you should comment on whoever's like either Sip Hype House or any of us.
Yes, that's a fantastic idea.
These conversations are what are gonna do the most, not just the arguments.
I would agree.
I love that idea.
Yeah. Okay.
I would like to hear some conservative women's opinions about
Me too.
like the stuff that we just talked about. Honestly,
yeah, that's who we were missing.
I'm sure they've been harassed too.
Yeah,
I'm sure they've been harassed as well. But we definitely were missing that voice. We were also missing a couple voices here today. But like, you know, again, we should just keep doing this, like Mariah said. Like,
totally,
yeah, definitely.
Yeah, even like once a month and kind of like get what's going on in the community together.
Yeah,
but.
I like to thank the Sim Hype House for like bringing this all together.
Yes.
Such a cool idea.
Thank you, Bob, for letting us use your account.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay. Goodbye, ladies. This was so much fun.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Bye.